In this session, we will talk about how we're going to load data into Data Vault. But first, just to have a short recap and remember some of the data loading terminologies. In general, we use the ETL procedure, which is extract, transform, and load. So in here, data is first extracted from different systems. Each one has its own format, and it is then transformed into a format that is standardized and usable across the system. This stage consists primarily of removing the erroneous data, applying the rules, and checking the data integrity. Then there is a staging area, which is mostly one-to-one copy of source system. Usually transformed data is not loaded directly into the target data warehouse. Typically, data would enter staging database so that if something goes wrong, it is easier to roll back. And finally, data is published to the data warehouse and loaded to target tables. There are two primary methods to load data into warehouse: full load and incremental load. With full load, the entire data set is dumped or loaded, and the old data is then completely replaced with the new updated data set. With incremental load, only the difference between the target and source data is loaded through the ETL process in data warehouse. There are two types of incremental loads. Depending on the volume of data, you are loading streaming incremental load or batch incremental load. Batch processing refers to processing of high volume of data in batch within a specific time span. It processes large volume of data all at once. Batch processing is most often used when data sources are legacy systems and they are not capable of delivering data in streams. And batch processing works also well in situations where you don't need a real-time analytics results, and when it is more important to process large volume of information than to get fast reporting results. Use cases for batch processing will be payroll data, billing, or orders from the customers. And the streaming process is the key if you want analytics results in real time. So streaming technologies employ a continuous load process. So you can feed data into analytics tools as soon as it is generated and get near instant analytic results. You can use the platforms like Spark Streaming or Kafka for this purpose. Streaming process is useful for the tasks like fraud detection. If you detect anomalies that indicate fraud in real time, then you will stop the fraud transactions before they are completed. Some of the use cases for streaming processing will be fraud detection, social media sentiment analysis, log monitoring, or analyzing the customer behavior. But a streaming process doesn't simply move data from source to destination like traditional ETL solutions. All data formats, including the log files, web logs, sensor or IoT data, machine data, and CDC from databases, may be ingested, filtered, corrected, and enriched with structured or stored data from any or many sources for analysis. So streaming or batch, all of these systems have advantages, and at the end of the day, organizations should consider the potential benefits of each to decide which method is best suited for the business needs. Okay, back to full and incremental load. So a full load seems to be easiest and straightforward approach, but there are some drawbacks. The first point is the speed, because processing of full load data on larger datasets will take great amount of time and use other server resources. Ideally, all the data loads are performed overnight with the expectation of completing them before users can see the next day. The overnight window may not be enough time for the full load to complete. And on the other hand, when dealing with OLTP source that is not designed to keep history, a full load will remove the history from the destination as well. Since the full load will remove all the records first, it will not allow you to preserve history in the data warehouse. Incremental data loads are usually preferred way to go. It is of course much more faster than a full load, but the main drawback to this type of loading is maintainability, because incremental logic tends to be more complex. Unlike the full load, with incremental load, you can't rerun the entire load if there is an error. In addition to this, files needed to be loaded in order, so if you have a problem with one batch, others queue up behind it till you correct it. Today, organizations are moving away from processing and loading data in large batches to process in real time using the streaming approaches. And the tools are exist to enable this process, such as Apache Spark, Apache Storm, or Apache Kafka. But streaming is not our focus in this training, so we would consider our loading acceptance as delta load in batch processing.